Hi everyone, I'm Arthur Dickens and it's my Rugby Legends podcast. In each episode, I interview an amazing rugby player or coach, get their insight and advice for young rugby players just like me who are keen to learn and get better. In this episode, I'm speaking with Jack Nowell, Exeter, La Rochelle and England and Lions winner. Jack won 2 Premiership titles and a European Cup with Exeter. He has been capped by England 46 times and winning the Grand Slam in 2016. Jack also played in 2 Tests for the Lions in New Zealand in 2017. Jack currently plays in his rugby in La Rochelle in France under head coach Rona Gara. I hope you find Jack's knowledge and wisdom self-decided. Enjoy.
There's so many questions that go through your head. Are you good enough? Are you at your depth? Should you be here? Do you deserve to be here? Even when you're losing, you're still very lucky. I still feel very lucky to be out there, and still a chance to bring the game back and win. Some of those big hairy forwards, I don't want to be squashed by them. So my footwork before that, trying to step them and make some of the bigger boys look silly. Sometimes you look around and you think, I'm getting paid for this.
So Jack, what other sports did you play growing up, and at what age did you give them up for rugby?
Probably like a lot of kids growing up. I tried every sport. I think probably my main ones were. I think my main other sport was swimming. I used to swim quite a lot as a kid. I used to swim for my swimming club back home. I did a few competitions and stuff, and I think I got to about 16. Where I had to make the decision where I go, push on with my swimming and take that a bit more seriously, or do the same with rugby. I'd say rugby and swimming were my main two, but I tried to do everything: football, cricket, football. Yeah, I tried football. I wish I was good at football, but I wasn't the best. So obviously, about 16, I started to do rugby a bit more seriously.
Do you support a football team?
I'm a bit of a fake football supporter. I think whoever has the nicest shirt out that season, I'd probably support that team. I think Arsenal are winning at the moment because their shirt's pretty cool at the minute.
What made you choose rugby over these other sports?
I think for me, I felt swimming was very individual. Obviously, you did a little bit of team stuff with your relays and things like that. But, and you travel as a squad, but once you're in that pool, you're very much by yourself. So I was always attracted to the team sport, and I certainly found that a lot more enjoyable. So obviously being with rugby, it's the ultimate team sport, isn't it? And you're with 14 other guys on that field, and then training you with the boys, and they become your best friends. And so I was naturally drawn to rugby a lot more so.
When did you know that you're going to make it as a professional?
I don't know. That's a tough question, that one. For me growing up, I never thought it would happen to me. You see all these, you look at all these TV, all these rugby stars on TV and things like that, and you think, no way that's going to happen to me. I'm from Penzance in Cornwall, which is the bottom of England, and so for me growing up, it was always just playing for fun and just playing with my mates. And, at 16, 17, I went to Truro College. And for me, I was quite lucky. It worked out with good timing because Exeter Chiefs obviously got promoted to the Premiership when I was 17. So I was in my second year of college. And Truro College was part of the Exeter Chiefs Academy at the time. And, they said to me then, if you have a good couple of seasons, potentially there could be a contract at the end of it for you. And even then I was a bit like, I'll be lucky to maybe get 1 year, maybe 2 years at this team. I'd probably never ever play for them. I'll just see how it goes for 2 years and then we'll go from there. So yeah, probably about 17, 18 when, I got to the end of my college life, and then I had a good chat with Exeter Chiefs and Rob Baxter, and they offered me a 3-year deal. Even when I signed it, mate, to be perfectly honest with you, I thought, there's still no way I'm gonna make this. I'm gonna do everything I can do to make it, but there's so many good players out there, and I'm only 16. I'm only 17, 18, and there's no way I'm going to be able to play for this great team. And so it probably wasn't even into my second contract my second year of my contract where I got my first team debut against London Irish. And then I was a bit like, oh God, here we go. This is getting exciting now.
And as you said, you had your first team debut. How did that feel?
I think, growing up as a kid and like I said, then you're seeing all these professional rugby players on the TV playing for England, and then you're playing against London Irish. And I think at the time there was a couple of, international players playing for London Irish. And again, even at that stage, I was a bit like, I'm 18 years old. Am I out there's so many questions that go through your head. Are you good enough? Are you at your depth? Should you be here? Do you deserve to be here? And, so obviously there's a lot of nerves, but at the same time, I think for me, the kind of excitement took over once I got to the match day. And, for me, it was a game that, I certainly will never forget.
Thank you. When did you know that winger was your position? And was this your decision, or did it come from a coach?
It came from a coach. It wasn't actually my decision, mate. So I was always a fullback. Growing up, as soon as I got into men's rugby, I started men's rugby when I was 16, and I always played fullback. I never played on the wing before. And then at the time when obviously I was at Exeter Chiefs, we had a pretty good fullback at the time who was, one of our best players on the field. He was one of our leaders. And Ali Heifer, our coach at the time, then said to me, we want you both on the field at the same time. How do you feel if we put you on the wing, give you the number 14 jersey? And yeah, like obviously the nerves were there, but at that stage of my career, I was just so thankful to be given this opportunity to play in the first team for Exeter Chiefs. So for me, they could have put me in the back row, and I could have been wearing number 7. I didn't mind as long as I was on that field and I was playing with the team. I was more than happy. And if it wasn't for that move of him, because obviously I spoke to him quite a lot before the game of him putting me in the wing, and he believed I could do it. He believed that I could, make that position mine. And obviously all these years later, I look back at that and think, well, if I wasn't put on the wing at that stage, I probably wouldn't have made it to where I am now.
What do you love so much about winger?
I think for me, very old school traditional wingers, very much are very fast. Stay on your wing, you score some good tries in the corners and things like that. For me, my coach at the time said to me, you're not going to be one of those wingers. You're not one of the fastest, but I back you to be one of the strongest. I back you to work harder than anybody else. And I kind of made that position, my own. I felt like, he told me, I don't want you on the wing. I want you to come off wherever you want to go. You can play around the scrum half, play around the fly half, get your hands on the ball, with the forwards. Just because you've got number 14 on your back, it doesn't mean I want you to stay on your wing. So, to be able to give them that license to roam the field and do what I want to do and get my hands on the ball as many times as possible, it was it certainly relieved me a little bit of that pressure. So yeah, I think I've really enjoyed playing in that position.
Thank you. And as you said, you score loads of good tries on the wing.
I tried to, mate. I tried to.
A couple of videos. I was watching this video against Sail Sharks where somebody grabbed it and then he ran, and it was a close try call, and he touched it down and dived.
They're always the nice ones when someone else does the work for you, and you're just lucky enough to dot the ball down over the line.
Exactly. Which players inspired you growing up, and what was inspiring about them?
You know what? I'll be honest. I didn't watch a lot of rugby when I was growing up. I wasn't one of those, I wasn't a super fan of rugby. I enjoyed watching it now and again. I didn't really watch a lot of, international games or anything, just because, where we lived in Cornwall, it was very much, local rugby. And, I remember going to watch the Cornish Pirates down at the local rugby field and things like that, and some of the senior games, but that wasn't obviously the top level. So, for me growing up, I didn't actually watch quite a lot of rugby, but, some of my first memories would be, watching someone like Jason Robinson and seeing what he can do on the field. And, that feeling of when he got the ball, you knew he was going to do something. You knew he was going to do something special. Obviously I'm a very, very different player to Jason Robinson, but, that excitement, I want to try and bring that across when people are watching me, that, I can create something for the team. I can do something that people are going to want to watch. Yeah, someone like Jason Robinson, again, as a winger, I used to like watching someone like Sebastian Chabal. You might not know who he is, but, he played for France, he played for Sail Sharks. And, again, he was the other side of the ball. His attack was good, but his defense was what I really liked watching. He used to smash people. And when you get that big hit and you have that feeling of your teammate having a big hit, it certainly brings the energy as well. So like those sort of people that bring the energy in the game and create stuff like that is people that I used to like watching.
How did you manage your nerves before a big game?
I think I learned very quickly the fact that there was no point wasting energy on nerves for the game. There's no need to be nervous. Everyone has a bad game now and again. Nobody's perfect, and I think as soon as you start worrying about what might happen, you then start concentrating on what you can actually do in the game. Because there's no point worrying about something that hasn't even happened yet. So there's no point being nervous on something in the game where I might make a mistake, I might do something wrong. I learned quite quickly when I was younger to try and flip that, because I remember when I was younger, my first few games being very nervous, and then by the time the game came, I was quite tired and mentally tired. And then I'll finish the game and I'll play well, and I'll be like, oh, there was no point worrying about things in the game that might have happened because they haven't happened. I've played pretty well. I should be happy with myself. So for me, I've always tried to stay positive and always try and remember that I am a good rugby player. I do good things on the field, and I try and focus on those sort of things opposed to the mistakes. And like I said, everyone makes a mistake. No one's perfect in a game. Which taught me to, for when I do make my mistakes in a game, I move on quite quickly and I try and do something positive, quite quickly after.
That's very helpful. What is the best piece of advice a coaches gave you?
Best piece of advice? Probably a bit cliche. You've probably had this a lot, but, have fun. Make sure you're having fun. If you're not having fun, there's no point doing it. Even now when I'm in these big games and I'm, playing against some of the best players in the world, the reason why I started rugby was because I was playing with my best mates. I was having fun with them. It certainly doesn't feel like a job for me even now. So yeah, if you're not having fun, there's no point doing it. And, I was very lucky that, I wasn't pushed when I was younger. I just, naturally enjoyed it. So yeah, I'm always having fun when I'm on the field, and I'm always smiling. Even when you're losing, you're still very lucky. I still feel very lucky to be out there. And still a chance to bring the game back and win. Another good bit of advice I learned was become very good friends with your fly half and scrum half, because they're the guys that are going to give you the ball. So make sure you know those two inside out.
I'm a fly half.
Perfect. There you go. We'll be best mates then.
Yeah, you played in a very successful Exeter team, also a Grand Slam winning England team. What makes a great team?
Oh, never been asked that question before. It's a good question. What makes a good team? I think off the field relationships are very important. I believe that if you become very good friends off the field, you're certainly willing to work extra harder for your teammates. You're willing to put everything on the line to win that game, whether that's a try like we spoke about, whether that's a try saving tackle in the corner. You're willing to give that little bit more to make sure that you're doing everything you can do to win for that team. I think for me, certainly at Exeter, I grew up with a lot of those players, and I for example, me and Luke Cowan-Dickey have played together since we were 5. The year we left Exeter was the same year, so that was the year we stopped playing with each other. But that was from 5 years old to 29 years old. It's a long time. So he knows me very well. I know him very well. And, when you're winning together and you're lifting trophies, everything becomes worth it. And you look across and you've got your best mates there, and you achieve these things with those boys. There's honestly no better feeling than that. So I think, relationships off the field, and they're not hard, they're not easy to build. Sorry, you've got to work at that. And, a lot of people think, when you get signed for a club and if you're lucky enough to be signed by Exeter Chiefs, you feel straight in and then you start playing really well. It's quite hard. You need to build those relationships off the field quite quickly. And, I've learned that moving to La Rochelle a couple of years ago, not knowing anybody that played here. But now even being here for two and a bit years, I feel like some of these boys are my best friends now. So, rugby is a brilliant game where you can fit straight in, and you have something in common straight away. You have a common goal that you want to achieve together. So yeah, I think it's brilliant.
How did you do that?
I think it's very much, the coach is a big part of that. You need to make, time in your week for boys to gel, for boys to get together. For me, I'm a very sociable person as well, so I like getting out. I've got a family, I've got 3 kids, my wife. So, coming here, the boys made me feel very welcome. Getting our kids together, getting the wives together. You feel you become part of the team quite quickly. And, Roland O'Gara is obviously our head coach, and he is very family driven, and I'll never forget the first thing he said to me when I came here was, if your wife and your kids aren't settled, I don't want to see you in the club. Like, I only want you to come into the club when your family is settled, because he knows how important, family and friends are. So, for me, that's very much something that I want to give and drive for as well, because for me, family is very important.
So, Jan, what do you think makes you successful?
Very much from a hard-working background. I think, my dad's a fisherman, so that's an extremely hard job for them. Probably a bit too hard for me. But I don't know. I think I was brought up, to be with this hard-working family. I was brought up to respect my friends, my family, and growing up and being with my dad and things like that. He done absolutely everything that he could do to make our lives, as comfortable. Me, my 2 other brothers, and my sister. For our lives to be as comfortable as possible. And, sometimes that sacrifice was him being away at sea for a lot of times and not seeing him a lot growing up. But, I understand now that I'm older and I have my own family that, they're all sacrifices you've got to make to be able to have your family, safe and ready for anything. So, I think now I've got my own family. It's certainly changed my mentality a lot about why I play and why I, turn up to training every day and why I put my body on the line every weekend. Because, at the start, and for me, it still hasn't changed. I play for fun. I play to be with my mates. It's certainly, one of the best feelings in the world. But, at the same time now, after having kids, I'm doing things where I need to make their lives as comfortable as possible. And, sometimes I do sit back and have a look, and we're living in France. We're with beautiful weather. My kids are fluent French now, which is awesome to see and to be able to see them speak it, because they're a lot better at the language than I am. And there are all the perks of why you do this and why you do that every weekend. And because there are a few dark bits in rugby that you need to get through. Injuries, losses. For me in my career, injuries has been up there a lot. The amount of niggles and injuries I've picked up, but it makes it all worth it at the end when you see your kids smiling and your kids thriving. So yeah, it's for me, it's family's the most important thing.
Wow, thanks. And as you said, your dad was a fisherman. Do you fish a lot?
I'm a fake fisherman, mate. When I was younger, I used to go out with my rod and my reel. But that's probably about as far as I go, because I remember growing up and seeing some of the videos on my dad's phone of them being out in sea in storms and horrible weather, freezing cold. And, that's luckily for me, I've always had rugby to get my teeth into. So, if it wasn't for rugby, maybe I'd be out there fishing as well. But yeah, I've never experienced a trip out of sea yet.
Have you caught any big fish with your rod?
Not any I'm proud of, to be honest. The fish and things I catch at the moment is when I go crabbing down at the rock pools with my 2 girls and my son. So that's as far as I go for fishing at the minute.
Thank you. To any young and inspiring wingers out there, what's one piece of advice you would give them?
Oh, good question. I think a lot like we spoke about. I think remember why you started playing rugby. That you're obviously enjoying it. It's why you're doing it. So don't forget that. As long as you're out on the field enjoying it, it doesn't matter what level you're at. Because at the end of the day, it's fun. It's fun what you're doing. If you're having fun, you're more likely to play well. So yeah, that side of it's brilliant. That I think, because again, like I said, for me, I'm doing it as a job, but I don't feel it as a job. I'm still having fun with my best mates, and I look back at when I was your age and when I was younger, and for me, that was some of the best times of playing rugby. Going away on club trips with your best mates, going away on school trips with your school friends, and playing all these different teams at rugby. It's brilliant. So I think, yeah, like I said, as long as you're having fun, you've got a smile on your face, you're going to achieve some good things.
Which other position in the team do you rely on the most?
Oof. probably a bit like I mentioned before. For me, scrum half, fly half, are very important. And like I said, I'm not a player that likes to stay on my wing a lot. So I do like to come around the scrum half and around the fly half to see if I can get my hands on the ball as much as possible, because the scrum half's obviously the big link between the forwards and the backs. I think you've got to have a really good relationship with your fullback and your other winger, because they're the guys when you're out there, they're going to help you a lot. And a lot of the times my fullback that I'm playing with makes me look good. So yeah, I think for me, scrum half, fly half, and your fullback are important guys that you need to be on the field with.
What was the facet of rugby which was your particular strength growing up?
I think that's always the main thing when you're playing rugby, isn't it? So I've gone through many different strategies of not being able to get tackled. I used to catch the ball on one side of the field, run around my whole team behind them, and then try and run up the other wing. Until I used to get told off by my coach because he said, "You can't do that forever, Jack. So you need to start running forward." But I think for me, it's probably that's kind of led on to then the way I play rugby now. I think it's your footwork and your being able to step players, and especially when you're going against some of those bigger boys on the field, some of those forwards, those big hairy forwards, you need to I don't want to be squashed by them. So yeah, my footwork before that, trying to step them and make some of the bigger boys look silly. And then probably one of my main things is, my strength after I have been tackled or I've been half tackled, to be able to, bust through those tackles and try and make a few more meters for the team.
As you talked about stepping people, what was your favourite step?
I had a good one last season where we're playing against Perpignan, and a big scary Fijian came flying out the line, and I was lucky enough to step him and get around the outside of him, and I went down the wing. But maybe one of my favourite steps has been, probably for my try against the Wasps in the 2016 final, where Luke Cowan-Dickey gave me the ball on the inside, and I had a little step round the winger, and then got into the corner and scored our first try. So yeah, probably that one.
Thank you. Jack, who is the best player you've played with or against?
I feel I've been very lucky to play with and against some amazing players. I think certainly this year I'd say someone like Will Skelton. I'm sure everyone's seen what he did in the tests against the Lions. But he's a brilliant player to play with. And a horrible player to play against, as we've all seen. But yeah, he's obviously so big and so strong. But again, his skills are very good. He takes about 4 or 5 defenders to stop him. So it gives us a lot more room on the edge. Manu Tuolangi at the same time, I really like playing with Manu Tuolangi again because he's strong, makes things happen, very hard to tackle. But yeah, probably I've obviously played against Manu a few times as well. So I'd say, yeah, Manu's probably one of the harder people to play against because I do not like tackling him.
What is the best thing about being a professional rugby player?
To be honest, mate, I still don't look at myself as a professional rugby player. Obviously it's my job and it pays the bills and things like that. But I really don't look at it as that. I get to go Monday to Friday into a rugby environment where we have one of the best gyms, we have some of the best rugby fields, some of the best coaches in the world, and I get to play rugby. I get to learn every day from these other people. I get to go in the gym and stay in shape. And then obviously the ultimate side to it is that Saturday, Sunday when you come to match day, and I get to play in front of 18,000 people at the Stade de Flandre here in France, and it's surreal. Sometimes you look around and you think, I'm getting paid for this. So, for me, I don't look at it as that. I still look at it as when I was 5 years old when I started, that I'm playing with my best friends, I'm having fun, and at the end of the day, I'm chucking a rugby ball around a field, and it's as simple as that. So that's the way I still look at it now.
What is the worst thing about being a professional rugby player?
I think for me, it's probably been, spending time away from the family is tough. I think, the Lions tour that I went to, which I was lucky enough to be selected for against New Zealand, you're away for 9 weeks. 6 Nations, you're away for 7 weeks. But at the same time, you're representing your country and things like that. So again, that's about the sacrifices that I mentioned at the start. I think probably the worst thing for me has probably been my injuries and stuff that I've gone through my career. touch wood, I'm still good now. I'm still going, but I've had 11 operations now. So I've had a fair few of operations. Luckily I've come back from them all. I'm in good shape still. I'm still able to play. There's a lot of people out there that aren't as lucky as what position I'm in at the minute. But yeah, probably mentally trying to get through those injuries and trying to get back fitter and better again. And when you pick up another injury again, it seems tough at the time, but you're always going to get through it and you're always going to be okay at the end of it. So that's what I've learned. So yeah, for me, probably the fair few injuries that I've had so far.
As you talked about the Lions tour, what was your favourite game you played from the Lions tour?
Playing in that second test was big, getting my cap and things like that. I think for me was playing against the Chiefs in the last midweek game, I think, because kind of everything went our way. I was lucky enough to score 2 tries, but we as a team played really, really well, and we were always winning that game. So it was a very enjoyable game to be part of.
And did you watch the Lions tour this year?
I did watch it. It was very exciting. I thought the way Lions started was brilliant, but I think Australia have some brilliant players, and they were certainly the underdogs going into this. And you see the way they fought in the second test. It was awesome to see the Lions win it in the second test, but I think if Australia just snuck it at the end, I think that third test would have been even more exciting for both teams. So yeah, I did watch it. I thought it was brilliant. Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I loved it as well.
Good.
Do you think it should have been 3-0?
I think the results were justified, to be honest. I would have loved to have it been 3-0. There's no better than giving the Aussies a whitewash, but I think a bit more so now of sitting back and being a bit more of a neutral and just enjoying rugby for what it is. I think it made it to be very exciting. I think Australia deserved to win at the end of it, especially the way he played in that second test, and even more so the way he played in the third test. So yeah, I think a 2-1 win for the Lions was justable.
And who would have got your player of the tournament?
Yeah, I think Tom Curry would have got my player.
Why?
I obviously have been lucky enough to play with Tom Curry. I know how good he is as a player. I know how professional he is. And yeah, honestly, playing with someone like Tom Curry, he makes your job very, 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 very easy on the field, because he does a lot of the hard work that a lot of people don't see. And he's horrible to play against. He's so strong over the ball when he's going to turn it over and things like that. So he's a player that you always need to be aware of. So yeah, I think Tom Curry.
Thank you. How have you found moving to France and playing rugby in the top 14?
I've really, 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 really enjoyed it. I think, for me, it's something I've always wanted to do. I'd love to have stayed with Exeter, my whole career, but unfortunately things don't always work out the way you want it to do. And for me, I was very keen to get my family. This is not the rugby side of it; it's the life side of it. Like, to get my family, experience different things, experience different cultures. So yeah, I think moving to France has been brilliant for my family. I think rugby wise, I believe at the moment that the top 14 is probably the best competition in the world to do with rugby. I certainly believe that we've got some of the best players over here playing in the world at the minute in this competition. So every single weekend's a big test. You go from one week playing against Toulon, to the next week playing against Toulouse, where you've got someone like Dupont, who's probably the best player in the world at the minute. So it's a challenge. It has been a challenge. It probably took me a good few months to be settled and to find my way a little bit. But again, like I said, the team made me feel very welcome coming over here. The team are very ambitious. We want to win things, which is certainly why I wanted to come over as well, because I'm desperate to win the top 14 and hopefully get another trophy under my belt. So yeah, I think it's been really good and it's been successful so far. And hopefully this season we can actually win a few trophies.
Have you been learning a bit more French?
I've been really, really trying, mate, honestly. And it's so disappointing disappointing, but also a sense of pride that I try and use some of my French speaking to my daughter, my eldest daughter, Nori, who's 7. And she corrects the way I pronounce the words and the way I say, and she goes, "Oh, Daddy, no, you need to say it like this." And I'm like, oh, I look at her and I'm like, I'm very proud of you, but at the same time, I'm very jealous of how easy and how well you've picked up being able to speak French. And so I am trying to learn, but it's a very hard language to learn.
And What are you most proud of in your rugby career today?
I think, yeah, being able to come home every day and see my kids smiling. Um, I love the fact that my family fly over from England to come and watch me play at our stadium, and the atmosphere that they're being able to experience and be part of. And, after you've won a big game, you get to go see them in the stands after, and you see them all smiling, and you see, my old man with a pint in his hand, and he's all happy that we've won the game. Um, so yeah, I think for me it's just, yeah, being able to see my family happy, and like I said, like the trophies and winning the games and winning big competitions is important to me. Because at the end of the day, I want to win these trophies with my mates, but at the same time, I think, yeah, as long as my family are happy, I'm going to be giving a lot more. And I'm also fully aware that, if it isn't for my teammates, if it wasn't for my teammates at Exeter that we spoke about before, the boys that I've played with since I was 5 years old, I wouldn't have gone on to play for England. I wouldn't have gone on to play for the Lions, because at the end of the day, they're the boys that make you look good, and they're the boys that you play with every single week. And if I'm looking good, it's because we're winning and we're playing well, and those boys are being good, and that leads on to them playing for England, because the England coach is looking at you. And then going on to the Lions is because the Lions selectors are looking at you playing for your country. So yeah, I think I'm very proud of my family, and I'm very proud of my mates that I started with.
Thank you. And I just want to say thanks so much for being on the podcast. I really appreciate you taking your time.
You're very, very welcome, mate. I've obviously followed your podcast and speaking with you, and yeah, I like your work, mate. You've had some good guests on, and you're very good at what you do, mate. So I feel very privileged to be asked to be on your podcast, mate. So thank you very much.